Okay, you're good.
Hey everybody, welcome to our business series. Today we are discussing business culture. So I want to welcome everybody who is watching live and will be watching the recording. So today I want to talk about how to decide when it's time to change your business culture. And for those who didn't join us with our first in the business series with business culture, I wanted to just briefly go over what is business culture. And so in short, it's the belief and behaviors that influence how employees and leadership interact with one another and how they handle business transactions. So it's not necessarily directly your employees or management dealing with clients and customers. It's about how they interact with each other and how they work with each other within your organization. So if you want full details on the different types of business cultures and to figure out what your culture is, I want you to go to our Spanish Fork Salem Chamber YouTube channel and watch David Rowley's What is Your Business Culture? Because he explains it all there and actually has information on how to figure out what your company's culture is. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was kind of having an understanding before we dive into things. So when to consider changing your culture. So whether we have purposely done it or not, we have a culture in our businesses, and not even if you're a sole proprietor up to 50, 60, 100 employees, you have a culture that is created. And when it's time to consider changing that culture or addressing and figuring out what that culture is when it affects significant impacts on your business goals. Are you losing out on clients? Are you losing out on opportunities and growth? What is your reputation? Are you known for being good to your clients and to your customers and your employees? Are you good with your word and so forth? Are you achieving your desired behaviors? Are people interacting in your business the way that you would hope? Are they holding up your mission and values? And the biggest one too is retention. Can you retain employees based off of what your culture is, or is your culture driving you to constantly have to reevaluate who you're hiring and how often you're hiring? So here are 5 questions to get you started when analyzing your business culture of whether you have one or don't. So the first biggest thing is, what are your business core values? Do you have a mission statement? Do you have your core values in place? Are they where your staff, your employees, your management, is it visible to them? Are they aware of that? Because that's what's going to drive your experiences, your culture, your atmosphere, vibes, whatever you want to call it. That's what is pushing your business. And if you don't even know what your core values are, how do you expect for your employees and stuff to understand and to extension, be an extension of you showing those cores and those values? So the next one is, what do you want your business culture to look like? Which sounds like, okay, what do you mean? Well, take for instance, different places. I know that there was the biggest kick here with millennials and stuff for a while, creating what was the word? I can't even think of, but it's that fun atmosphere. Like people, they don't have cubicles anymore. It's all open and people share ideas, and they have game room and a basketball court. I know the Adobe building up in Lehigh has that kind of similar, that feel where we want to encourage play, because then that gets people creative and it creates teamship and everything. So not everybody wants their culture to be that way, and that's completely fine, but you need to have an idea of what that culture is going to look like. How do you want people to resolve issues? What is your range for what is considered bad behavior versus positive behavior? Those are important things to know, because then that bleeds into things like with your HR and training and all those other elements that help you form your culture. And then the next step is, then have you evaluated your current culture or lack thereof? Like I know for myself, I work essentially by myself. I have an assistant that comes in and stuff. And I know the more I study business culture, I really need to start now because I have a goal to have more employees in the future or work with independent contractors in the future. And depending on how I want them to interact with each other and interact with myself, I've got to go back to the idea of if I have a business culture, what is that going to look like? And so if you don't think you have one, you probably do. You just don't recognize what those, what it is and what elements are playing into that. Sorry, my nose is itching. I was trying not to touch my face while doing this. So the next one is, what is your employee value proposition or EVP? And essentially what is appealing to your employees? What do they find value in working for you? Is essentially what that is. So do your employees find value working for you? Do you have a lot of disciplinary issues? Do you have, we go back to the slide before where we're talking about, do you have a retention issue? Do you have a really hard time keeping employees on and doing projects? So I took this as an example. I mean, once you get into business culture, there is, you'll see that there's a lot of themes. If I go back, let's see, if I go back to here, these were out of everything I've been reading and stuff, these were about the 4 or 5, oh, I realized I only had 4 questions on there. Huh, my bad. Anyways. I'm so professional, I understand. But this is what's getting you started. These are what are the common threads within all the business culture things that I have been reading with that. So I went ahead and focused on motivation rewards because that kind of plays into the EVP that we were just talking about, your employee value proposition. And so what I put here was an example. So for example, if you want to encourage employees to work as cohesive teams, you must reward them for their success as team players. You cannot just reward individual performance if your new organizational culture values teamwork. I thought that was very key, that if you are in a place that encourages teamwork, you cannot just recognize individual efforts, because then if you have people who have been contributing to those to that work or those ideas and you're only recognizing one person, that can create animosity within the team itself, feeling like, well, why didn't my part get recognized? Or, I've been pushing that, they're just team lead, sort of thing. So that's something to really consider when it comes to part of your culture is how are you, I guess the biggest thing that came to mind when I was putting this together is the word hypocrisy, which I know is kind of a strong word, but you can't, basically you can't say you do this, do as I say, not as I do, is basically what it comes down to. You as a leader in your business, you as an owner, or you in a management position that helps get the culture going and stuff, you can't have one set of expectations for the employees and then you live by a whole different standard of those expectations, because then that creates the feeling of hypocrisy and can create conflict not only within the team itself, but between employees and management with that. So the next one, so some things to remember. You need to model your values. So it goes back to what we were talking about. Do you know what your core values are? Do you know what your mission is? If you know what those are, then you need to make sure as a leader in your business that you are modeling those values, that you are holding yourself just as accountable as you're making the employees. And then you want to I am so sorry, my things are dinging. You're going to reinforce positive behaviors. So when you see, and it doesn't have to be, gift cards all the time or, lavish outward gestures of it, but making sure that sending a quick email saying, hey, I saw your proposal. It looked amazing. Or great work on that social media post. I really appreciate you getting it out on time. Or anything small to that where somebody feels like they've first been seen, and second, that you acknowledge that they are working and they're getting the work done. I did a online webinar a few weeks ago, and a woman was talking about how the golden rule versus the platinum rule. The golden rule is always treat others the way we want to be treated. The platinum rule is treat others the way they want to be treated. And so I like that because, one, golden rule makes it more self-reflective, like, oh, this is how I would want to be treated. And it doesn't take into account, well, my personality is different. I value different things. What's the word I'm looking for? Totally lost that train of thought, but I'll come back to it. But then with the platinum rule is, I know that, Lisa really appreciates getting an email saying that she appreciates my work, and since it doesn't appreciate me, but then she's seen and she's recognized for that. And it shouldn't be just left up to your HR to reinforce any type of the behaviors with that. You as management or leadership should be actively trying to encourage good behaviors out of your employees. That's part of being a leader. And then the other thing too is discourage negative behaviors and be consistent. Consistency is the biggest key, because if Tom is always 10 minutes late and you let that slide, but Brittany shows up because of whatever one day and she's 10 minutes late and she gets written up, but Tom doesn't, you're showing first that you're creating an atmosphere of favorites or inconsistency, which then leads to conflict among peers, as well as negativity towards management for not following through on addressing those negative behaviors. And discouraging negative behaviors doesn't have to be also sending out horrible emails saying, I know somebody's doing this, and, an overall threat to that. In fact, I think some of it can be done on a more personal matter instead of trying to blanket it all and make it everybody go, well, why am I getting this email? This doesn't apply to me. I haven't been doing this. And so having that ability to have like one of the words, and Wendy's, I saw her jump on, she's very familiar with this, and I know we've discussed it before, having that crucial conversation is, I noticed that this is going on. Why don't we talk about how we can resolve this issue? Or, am I misunderstanding something? So it's not just, I'm going to reprimand you. It's really trying to figure out and point out, this isn't actually a desired outcome or a desired behavior that I typically see from our employees, and, sometimes it comes from like a lack of training. Maybe they weren't trained. Maybe they just didn't understand a certain directive. I remember when I became a director at a nonprofit, I received absolutely no training. I got very minimal in any type of leadership, or I didn't even know half of the rules and stuff. And later that ended up coming to, essentially bite me in the butt in the long run and stuff. But it was so frustrating because here I had conflicting, it was a conflicting culture. One week I was praised, telling I was doing great. The next week I was in the unemployment line, and I'm just like floored going, what the heck just happened here? And what did I just miss and stuff? And so, and it created I won't mention it, but when I hear people are working there, I don't have anything positive to say about their reputation because of the experiences myself and a few other people had with employment there. And so just keep that kind of stuff in mind when you're interacting with your employees and training them and your management. And then the next thing too is hire for your culture. I know sometimes we get into right now with things with the pandemic and political atmosphere and stuff. Right now, it's almost like we're on a daily survival. And sometimes we have to take what we get. But in the long run, it ends up giving us more heartache than if we took a moment to step back and go, no, I need to find the right person for this job. Because then you don't find out 2 weeks later, oh my gosh, I don't know why I hired this person, that it's not working. And, instead of trying to just put the putty in the hole, actually, let's cement it up and get it repaired. And so really, really take time when you're hiring, if you can, to make sure you're hiring for the right people. And it's okay also to have trials, put them, say you're on probation for 90 days and we're going to reevaluate how this is going. And we're going to talk about your contributions and, give them a 90-day period to adjust to the new culture and stuff. But if they haven't by 90 days started picking up on that, then it might be time to say, is this person going to continue working? Are they going to kind of be the cancer that spreads, that brings negativity to your culture? So those are some things that you really want to make sure you're doing. And then overall, just like I said before, be consistent, be that person that's being the example, and be transparent. So if you know that places open, you're supposed to open at 9 o'clock, but you're coming in at 9:45 on some days, and people, well, I thought we're supposed to be here at 9 or whatever. Be transparent and say, well, you know what? I've actually been working in the stockroom till 11 o'clock at night. So I've been adjusting my hours, and don't feel like you're necessarily having to explain yourself, but a little bit of that transparency. Cause like I said, we only see people first, we're pretty much 1D when it comes to our work life, interacting with each other and management, employees and stuff. And so having that kind of crucial conversation really helps. And I had to do that with my assistant not too long ago, where I think our wires got crossed on what my expectation was or what it was turning into versus what she originally thought the job was going to be. And so I made sure to sit down with her and say, hey, I noticed this is what's going on. I go, so explain to me, are you still enjoying the job? Do you still want to do this? And I apologized because I said, yes, the job is kind of changed and this is what I'm expecting. And it turned everything around, and it's been working really well with us from here on out. So. All right, so I'm not sure, I think we had a few people jump in and we can do this, but I wanted to have just a quick discussion open to everybody about, I wanted to know, what is one thing you would like most to change about your current business culture? And what have you found success with implementing into your business culture? So I'm just going to open it up to a quick discussion. And I hope that you guys were able to take something away from this. And I'm sorry, I'm still a little stumbling on a few things here and there, but I hope you guys were able to at least find a little bit of value to help you start in the direction of changing your culture. And I hope you guys will join us again when we have our business culture, because that's our goal, is to help you guys build that up and make the changes and make it stronger. So,
hey Randy, Wendy had a question.
Yeah.
Do you have any tools you recommend for a business to help evaluate their culture?
I know that there was a David had a resource in his presentation to go through and look at that. But you can also, if you quickly go on to search on Google, look for how to evaluate business culture. There are a lot of, Forbes has a few, oh, sorry, I hit my thing. Forbes has a few, in fact, I'm going to hit stop share right now. Forbes, there's different companies that have ways and tools that you can use to evaluate your business culture. But in all honesty, I think it starts with writing what your mission and values are down, and then really figuring out what your processes are and how are they working or with or against your missions and values. And then from there, start investigating more, or making the changes.
So
I don't know if that answers your question, Wednesday Adams. So glad for you to join us. I'm not drunk, I promise, people. That's the first thing I think when I start like going, that people are like going to be like, wow, she's a day drinker. No, I'm not, I promise.
Randy, thank you for that. Helpful. I had one question about kind of you in the discussion questions. One thing that I think has been challenging, at least for my organization, and I'm sure other businesses are having this challenge too, but it seems like with COVID, there's a lot of changes that come quickly in regards to how we're operating our business. And I think that does affect our business culture. And just wanting to know, just in terms of discussion, anybody could answer maybe, what have you done to maybe help keep your business culture, improve your business culture during, I feel like changing things so rapidly can sometimes be a culture squasher. I don't know. So I don't know if anybody else has experienced this too, but sometimes it gets a little bit frustrating when people are like, okay, we're going this direction, and we got to change this, and those kind of things. And so a lot of pivoting, and again, asking and putting that expectation on your employees. Is there anybody else going through that, and what they've experienced and what has helped them as far as maintaining their culture when we're having to pivot so much?
So I do. I have something that I can say on that. And because this is something that we do, that's part of our culture that works, like hands down works. And this is every team member. So we have, we're almost 50 employees now. And every single member of the team has a one-to-one with their general manager or someone higher than them every single week. And the reason for that is because then we find out every single week we have that two-way open communication, and it's a real communication, and it's not just feedback going to the team member, it's feedback going to the supervisor or manager as well. But that in that meeting, it's to help each other figure out what's working, what's not working, any goals, see if they need help, but it's also to make sure that that person is having joy in the journey, because that's part of our culture. Is if you're not having joy in the journey working there, then we help the person figure out what will bring them joy, what does bring them joy, and help them get there. So that's like a key thing in our business, are those one-to-ones, because when those one-to-ones, when life gets crazy and all of a sudden someone stops doing their one-to-ones, there's chaos and things fall apart. But as soon as they go back to doing those one-to-ones so that everyone knows what's going on with each individual person, it's like magic. I can't even explain it. It's a huge thing, because then you don't have to have so many hard or critical conversations, because you already know where that person's at and how to help them, if that makes sense. So I don't know if that helped answer your question, Wendy, but that's something that we do in our business that's really instilled the culture into every person.
And I was going to add too, they suggest when you do start to make changes to your business culture, you don't do it all at once. It's a long game. It's not going to happen overnight. And so I would also suggest, to add on with Dawn and stuff, is when it comes to your business culture, anything that's reinforce what's going to stay. So if there's certain procedures, or there's certain traditions, whatever it is that isn't going to be changing at this time, reinforce those and use those as your anchors as the other stuff is making change. And really just talk to the team and say, listen, we know things are changing right now. We know it's a hard time, and we, and give a little bit of grace, I guess, with, we have this going on and stuff, but we're going to work as a team. We're going to work together. And like Dawn said, having the one-to-ones and having those check-ins, I think will give them some security that, okay, all right, I'm feeling frustrated this, but guess what? I have my one-to-one with Dawn next week, and I can let her know, hey, I'm feeling some frustration about this. Can you work this talk this out with me, or what are we doing about this? You know, gives them, instead of them, it gives it more of a proactive platform for them to look forward to having a discussion versus going, well, when am I supposed to let these people know what's going on? Or when are they going to listen to me? Well, next week during your one-to-one, you know, so, or, you know, giving them those options. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that helps.
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome, because those one-to-ones are like, we use them too. They don't get to, no one gets to go to a one-to-one and complain. It's used to problem solve. If there's any problems, it is open conversation to solve problems. So yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you, Don.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything they want to contribute, or any suggestions, or?
Well, Randy, would you mind sharing again your discussion questions, just so everybody can remember the first one but not the second one? That's how short my attention span is. Sorry.
Yep, let me bring it. No, you're totally fine. Let me share my screen again. I'll bring it back up. So the first one was, one thing you would like to most to change about your current business culture? And the next one is, what have you found success with implementing into your business culture? So Dawn had a great example of what they're implementing with that. So yeah.
I would say for my business, one thing, I don't know if it's necessarily business culture, but in terms of conflict resolution or trying to get some resolve. So after our business summit, I went back, I think I mentioned there on there that we had an issue or a thing that we're trying to tackle, and we kept changing our strategy and kept going back to the drawing board and things like that. And I discovered that when we started with our why of what we were trying to accomplish, everybody finally understood, and we got on the same page, and we're able to solve the situation. We were able to come up with a game plan that everybody was on board with, because we had changed it like three times already. It was really frustrating. And so I felt like it just dawned on me after that business summit, after kind of the things that were discussed. So it helped me to realize that by starting with our why of what we're trying to accomplish, but then each individual why of why they were thinking that this certain way was the best way. When we understood the why, we were able to come up with the answer. And so I love Simon Sinek's starting with why, but it was funny to apply it to that particular situation in terms of conflict resolution or solving a particular problem, is understanding everybody's why was really helped us get. So I don't know if that's business culture, but it was certainly helpful for me.
No, I agree. I think that's why when I was reading up all of them, all the advice was, you start with your mission and your values, and which is your why. Why are you in this? Why are you doing this? And then where do you want to go with this? And so I think that's a great example, is remembering your why. Why are we doing this? Does anyone have any questions or comments or anything?
I just wanted to say good job, Randy.
Oh, thanks.
It was short and sweet and to the point, and very valid point. So yeah, good job.
Good. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. So, I mean, unless anyone else has anything they want to add or any questions, and we can stay on after we can close the recording, or you can feel free to reach out to, honestly, as a board members, we're really trying to reach out to our members to make sure that they are having all the tools or resources right now with all this pivoting and all these changes that we're having to make. And so we hope that you guys do find some value in the business series, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks with more information on business culture. And Heather, when is our next one? I think we do have one next Wednesday. I know we were switching it up a little bit this month with the holidays and stuff. So I do believe we will have, I think is it leadership next Wednesday?
Yes, so we have one more next week, and then we won't have another one until December. Sorry, my thing wouldn't come unmuted. So
No, you're totally fine. You're totally fine. So
Yeah, so
all right.
one more next week and then not again until December.
Awesome. All right. And you can stop recording if you want, but I'm going to grab all these guys'